It's an arbitrage.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. We're coming to you with some quick updates, and then we're gonna go do some history as well. Okay, so is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I was told by one of my sons, one of my middle sons, that when you do a live like this, that you are supposed to give a little time for people to join.
Okay.
He said that was the correct thing to do.
Etiquette.
So the etiquette. So I didn't know. We usually used to do our videos pre-recorded and then we would upload them, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a real thing that we were concerned with. But so in the vein of that, we will give some amendment. He said it is etiquette. So I'll try to do the right thing, but we won't waste your time while we're waiting. So like we said, we want to bring you something that came across this morning that I found very interesting that kind of juxtaposed what we were talking about the last live with the dollar going through a golden cross and the dollar strengthening against other foreign currencies. So that is something you can see on the technical chart if you look at it. And just as a reminder, a golden cross is when the short-term moving average goes above a long-term moving average, and typically they're talking about the 50-day moving average, the short term, crossing over the 200-day moving average, the long term. Now, remember, just technically speaking, the 200-day moving average is a very strong marker on the chart, which means either which way. If you have a 200-day moving average, it will be strong resistance. And if the price is above the 200-day moving average, it will be strong support. So the 200-day moving average is very important. So that's why a golden cross is something that when you see it coming, you're like, hey, if you can bust through the 200-day, you really just have, really no top to move up. So in that vein, that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to go right into this topic. You ready? We got a couple people in the room. All right, so we want to talk about the BRICS nations. Now, we don't want to belabor the point about BRICS nations, but it is very important. So BRICS nations is a form of nations who come
Consolidated
together.
nation.
They come together. BRICS being an acronym: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. These are the BRICS nations. So here is a story I found this morning as I woke up, and it's going to be Reuters, cited from Reuters. Reuters is a very solid publication, so you could check this out. So the BRICS nations have sold U.S. securities for $123 billion. They're selling off. They are selling off. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. You can chop
No,
it.
you go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, $123 billion they have sold off of U.S. securities, U.S. treasuries, right? And they're very powerful nations in regard to China and Russia. So you have to definitely take that into consideration. I'll read a couple things from this article, and just give you the cliff notes, and then we'll go into some stuff right here. So, in 2023, the BRICS nations collectively sold 122.7 billion U.S. treasuries. China, a member of the BRICS, that is the head of the group, which the year has released 117.4 billion. So China has really released most of it. Everybody else is just a drop in the bucket. China's making it move, right? China done made it move. So we always, China, man, China's a problem, man. Everybody got to keep their eye on China. And then, what they will say, another BRICS member, they've dropped 227 million. So, it's a cascading effect, right? The United Arab Emirates has dropped. How much have they dropped? They've dropped 300 million, and they're not even a member of the BRICS nation.
They will be a full
Yeah,
member in January, though.
yeah. So right now they're BRICS Plus. They will be a full member in January. Thank you for that. So that's what we're talking about. That's an update. So what you see here is you're going to see a propping up of the dollar, and you see the BRICS nation pushing back very hard on that. You drop 123 million, oh, 123 trillion, no, billion, I'm sorry. And where does it go? Where does that money go?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. Where does this money go? It goes back as it floods the market. And us as being Bitcoiners, right? We know that scarcity is what really makes money. So I have been speaking out of turn because I should be saying fiat currency. Where does all that fiat currency go? So yeah, it's a lot of fiat currency flooded back onto the market. But they also, as they said in this article that I read, they are taking their money and reinvesting it into gold and other commodities such as oil and gas.
So those dollars are gonna essentially come back home worthless.
Yeah, yeah. And so the thing is, I mean, it's easy to say, easier said than done. Follow the money. You see people dropping $100 and some billion and going into precious metals, right? So people with that type of money will always go into gold, even though we are big advocates for silver, but they will always go into gold because it's more portable. When we say portable, it's just you can store more money in gold than you can in silver because silver will get, like I said, cumbersome. Silver may be for the everyday man like you and I.
But they're buying megatons of gold.
Yes, they are. That's why they're buying gold. If they buy silver, oh my goodness, they have so much silver.
Hundreds of megatons of gold. So it's
Yeah.
very, very different, right? Hundreds of megatons of gold would be like millions of megatons of silver.
Yeah, so and that's about all I have on that. I just see what your thoughts may be on it.
Well, Crazy Bronxton, first let me shout you guys out. Hi,
yeah.
Colonel. Crazy Bronxton.
The Colonel.
Oh,
To the Colonel.
I'm talking to you, Colonel. If you're trying to hit me up on iMessage, hit me up on Facebook Messenger. We have to take our iMac in to get service. So I'm not getting your messages if you're sending them to me, just in case you want to schedule a call or whatever. And then welcome back, L. Deb and L. Yes,
Hey.
It's been a while, but we missed you, but you're back,
Yeah.
so that's what's
I
important.
missed you, man.
Atlanta's Black Wall Street, thank you so much for joining. Just to kind of recap, he's explaining that the Brics nations are dumping the treasuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
US
basically
treasuries.
the U.S. treasuries, and essentially, right, without going into all the technical of it, the dollars are going to come back to shore basically like worthless, right? They're getting rid of something they don't feel is important anymore.
Yeah.
In addition to,
And also,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No, you go.
No, there's something they don't think is important, and it's a chess move. It's a chess move by China because you see China they dumped most. If 123 got dumped, China dumped 117
billion.
I keep I'm missing it. And so it's a chess move. It's a strong chess move. And so the United States, it's like, it's almost like the ball is in your court. What are you gonna do?
It was a big middle finger is what it was.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It's 114 billion in middle fingers. 17?
Yeah.
The Colonel said he was hurt. No, we're not. You know Apple devices, right? If you don't buy the Apple device right when the new one come out, they mess with your mind. We're going to get a service. I'm not buying a new one. Hi, KW1. Thank you so much for joining us. And then I see Edward Diaz, 1130. Welcome. Are you saving in cash in order to buy at better prices after a crash?
Uh-oh, there we go. That's a great question. Who asked that question?
Edward Diaz, 1130. Welcome to the show.
Oh, okay.
Not
Welcome,
familiar
sir.
with that handle.
Okay, Mr. Diaz, that's a great question. And we just talked about this last show and I talked about it earlier, but the U.S. dollar is coming to a golden cross. You would expect it to go up, I would say, at least 25% as it did the last time it reached the golden cross. And, for people coming late, the golden cross is when the short-term moving average comes across and breaks through a long-term moving average, usually 50-day on the short term to 200-day on the long term, right? So, so now, while the dollar right now is strong, yes, it is a great idea to save in dollars because you have a strong dollar that you can reinvest into another, whatever you may, and we are, Bitcoiners, so we will say Bitcoin, precious metals, particularly silver, and gold, precious metals, Some people like to do real estate, but yes, saving in dollars, waiting for the crash is a great idea because what they call it on Wall Street is having cash on the sidelines, right? So if you have your cash on the sidelines and a crash, you see it come down, uh, you will call it a crash on Wall Street because that's a technical term, I guess. But what it is you're really catching things on sale. So if you see something come down, whatever, 40, 50%, now it gets real technical. Now you have to do your technical analysis. You have to do your fundamental analysis on things when you see crashes so that you see good price points to buy things. And so, it can get technical, but yes, I like that. I like that you will save money for the crash so you can buy things at a discount, a very, very deep discount is coming.
I also think you should have a bit of cash on the sidelines before I take you guys into your daily, what's now a daily history lesson. The Colonel wants to know when's the crash.
Oh boy.
But let me just go into this first, right? Because we can't pinpoint it, but I do want to mention several things. So I want to remind you guys on October 4th at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you guys are going to get the National Emergency Broadcast Pulse to your alert to your cell phones. They want to do a second one on October 11th at the same time. I don't know why, but what I am going to tell you is because there's so many moving parts simultaneously, right now, you guys really should be catching up and seeing the information you can get with the war in the Ukraine, right, and Russia, okay? That's really got my alert heightened a little bit because Ukraine is losing. It's really a war that the U.S. is trying to fight. And what they're going to do is, and you guys look this up, BlackRock is going to buy the property. I didn't get to mention this to you. I watched this today. BlackRock's going to buy the property in the Ukraine and be in charge of reconstruction.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Uh-oh. And can I say one thing?
But before you say that, here's the thing. Who's paying for that? We are.
We are.
Right? When after antebellum slavery during the Reconstruction period, no other country came in and said, we're going to pay for the reconstruction of the Black community that's been ravaged by antebellum slavery. Okay. But for this war, right, and it's been really, really bad. The numbers are counting up. I've been getting a lot of discrepancies in the numbers.
Okay.
So I don't want to quote any of them because I don't have a way to vet them. But I will tell you this. Y'all know Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox. And he got fired from Fox because he was trying to tell the truth about some things. He had the opportunity to talk to Putin and get Putin's side of the story about the war. And the U.S. propaganda machine will not let him do that.
Yeah.
So when we talk about having cash on the sidelines, when we talk about crashes, we are, for all intents and purposes, in the middle of a war because we are funding the war and we are also furnishing the military-industrial complex to the Ukraine to fight Big Mother Russia, right? The bear.
So see, now what she said is what I wanted to bring back in. For all my historians out there, we've all probably read the book, The Art of War. And we understand there are different types of ways to be in a war. So when you see China dumping U.S. treasuries at that level, 117 billion, that is a form of war. That is a war tactic. They are using a war tactic. So now the United States finds themselves in some kind of nebulous war with China and Russia.
Right.
And that's trouble. Because it's trouble because if it ever comes to, and we're talking about the Thucydides traps. Remember, there's 18 Thucydides traps. 16 of them ended in war. We are in the fourth turning, which is coming of a Thucydides trap. So war, I mean, whether the war ends here or it gets, we don't want it to go there. I'm not against China and Russia,
but we do want.
How many? I'm sorry, and I'm gonna cut you off, and then I'm done. How many soldiers are in the Chinese army?
Y'all ready for the answer? More than 200 million. And that's biblical prophecy for those of y'all who read y'all Bible. It's biblical prophecy. It's the first time ever that a country has more than 200 million men Men, not AI, right? Not little robots, not drones, not,
Not robots.
what do we call it? Apparatus, right? Human beings. I hope they're human, but human beings, right, to fight a war. I just want to say hi to my lovely Jess.
Hello.
And then Edward Diaz said, I read that China is selling U.S. treasuries to defend the yuan and also slow down their real estate bubble. Yeah, they're doing it for their best interest. But in their best interest, remember those dollars are coming home. And with Brics pulling what they're pulling, with the war in the Ukraine, which is costing a lot of money, you guys got to remember, what a war cost in 1919,
Right.
it's exorbitantly way more than that. Even the World War II in the 30s and 40s is way more than that in 2023, right? Just the inflation of the war, the technology, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
And I just want to chime in, Mr. Diaz, Edward Diaz, you are exactly right. And that's what you're saying. But like, that's what I was saying. That is a form of war.
Yeah.
That's a war tactic being, deployed against the United States because they're trying to smash the dollar. You have the world reserve currency, and you have a country who feels like they're probably the most powerful in the world, maybe.
Right now, they're
Yeah.
probably
So
likely
yeah,
the world
they're
power.
doing that. Push down the dollar, push up the yuan. You are exactly correct, sir.
Here's the other thing. A couple of shows ago, when we were doing Getting the House in Order series, I had explained to you guys that words are spells, right? And the words that your enemies used against you or used to you when they're talking to you or when they're talking in general, they form ideas and preconceived notions in your mind. We have to unlearn and unprogram some of that, right? Or reprogram is really what I should say, right? Unlearn and reprogram. So I want you guys, you're used to, in history, wars being this physical battle fought between man and man, man and machine, devastation with bombs and stuff like that, right? And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, so I got to watch what I'm saying as well. I want you guys to start really thinking in terms of warfare can be anything now. And typically, the number one aspect of it is going to be a psychological operation, right? So when he was talking about China dumping the money, that is going, for those who are paying attention to it, right? That's going to send the anxiety levels up, right? Because we're already with runaway inflation. Our government lost, I don't know how many billions of dollars they can't seem to appropriate. The deficit spending is the highest it's ever been. I can go on and on and on and on, right? You go to the grocery store, $100 in groceries now. I don't even know that lasts for 2 days for a family of 4. Y'all would have to hop in the comments and tell me if that's true.
Yeah.
Because in Mexico, it is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But understand that war in these terms are the psychological onslaughts to your minds, right? And this is why for these shows, we are going to keep doing history lessons so that you can kind of like, oh, okay, that's something y'all always been doing. This is what happened when you did that. It can help kind of deprogram a lot of the deceit, because that's what it is. It's the great deception.
Right.
A lot of the deceit and the psychological manipulation that they're using against the masses, right? So the elite, and that's the term I'm going to use for today, it says $100 won't do much here in the Bronx. I ain't think so. Crazy Bronx Don could attest to that as well. He's in San Antonio now, but
And just
New
I
York
jumped
City,
in.
yeah.
Like she said, when she's talking about the war tactics, these things are known as psyops.
They are
right?
psyops.
Psyops. So, like I said, if you look, check out that book, Art of War, and it tells you different tactics of war, right? And the best tactic, the best tactic is like she said, not to have to go to physical
Right.
war. Those are the best tactics. You win the war before the battle is ever fought.
Before it's even fought, or it doesn't even need to be fought, which also saves money. Now, they do spend a significant amount of money on the propaganda machines, but not the kind of money like how the Ukraine is fighting a physical war. I mean, those numbers are astronomical. And BlackRock's like, oh, we're going to go in and we'll reconstruct it. We'll buy the property up. And you know who's going to pay for that? Your thoughts on Western countries introducing CBDCs? CBDCs. It's no problem, Edward Diaz. You can ask as many questions as you want. We're going to do our best to answer all the questions. I'm going to put a pin on that question for now because I want to take you guys on your history lesson, right? Some of you may know this information. Some of you won't. I sat and I watched. I want to shout out this content creator. I don't know him. His name is Cold Fusion, and Cold Fusion thinks the way I like. He's very meticulous in his research, and I sat down and I watched his video, and I took very meticulous notes from his meticulous notes. And I just want to take you back, and then we're going to come back to present day to what we're talking about, and then we'll talk about the CBDCs, Edward Diaz. If it looks like we're forgetting, hop back in the comments and say, please don't forget my question. So I want to quote Henry Ford, right? They love quoting Henry Ford. They love quoting Henry Ford. But I'm going to quote some elitists that told the truth up front and didn't even care. Henry Ford is quoted, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Right? So he understood that the masses didn't really know how money worked, even though money is literally, I'm going to say at least 90% of the average person's lifestyle, where that's revenue generating, budgeting, misappropriation of funds, squandering of funds, funds that get misappropriated because, you know, people's money gets stolen through scams and stuff. It is literally 90% of people's lifestyle. Everything you do and need has some association to utilizing the monetary system. And even today in 2023, like you guys, talking to you guys is talking to the choir. Really it is, right? I would love if we had the opportunity to talk to those people out on the street. You ever seen them shows where they would ask somebody on the street, like, who is the first president of the United States? And they're like, Bill Clinton. And you're like, oh my God, y'all don't know that? You know, I'll give you $150 if you could tell me the capital of New York City. I mean, the capital of New York State. And they'll say New York City, right, instead of Albany. So stuff like that. I would like to talk to those people so that the masses can start. And this is the age of Aquarius where the truth is coming tumbling out. Now, it is going to be sprinkled with a lot of misinformation and disinformation, as I like to call it, and a little bit of uninformation, meaning y'all just talking, it's just words strung together and you're not really saying anything. I like to call that uninformation. I want to read another quote. So this was a letter that the Rothschilds, this is the Rothschild Investment House in England, right? And they wrote a letter to some business colleagues. This was 1863. They said the few who understand the system will be either so interested in its profits or be so dependent on its favors that there will be absolutely no opposition from that class, the few. On the other hand, the great body of people, mentally incapable of comprehending the tremendous advantage that capital derives from the system, will bear its burdens. They basically said the great number of people, the sea of people, the masses are stupid. They can't understand or appreciate the tremendous advantage that capital derives from the system, so they'll bear its burdens. They go on to say, this is the Rothschilds, y'all. And they will be compliant and perhaps without even suspecting that the system is inimical to their interests. Like y'all, you know, I had to look it up, right? Because I didn't know what inimical meant. Let me tell you what inimical means. It means obstruction, harm, injurious, detrimental, hostile, antagonistic, or damaging. So they basically said that they won't even suspect that the system they created would be injurious or hostile or detrimental to their own interests because we, the people, are bearing the burden. Y'all look these quotes up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let freedom ring. How you doing? Yep, the quote is so true, and he really said it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I thought you were going to read out a couple of people.
I do want to shout out Phantom Beat. Welcome. I'm not familiar with your handle. Phantom Beat said, I asked my coworker, what does liquidity mean? He asked that I spill something.
Oh, boy, that's great. That's a good one. I like that.
I bet your coworker was black, though.
Oh, man, I ain't going to ask.
That's how my sound. Corey Holcomb would say.
Yeah,
Like, what's wrong, dog? You spilled something?
Liquidity. You want me to get you a napkin?
Is it too
My bad.
watery?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's good though. I like that.
Okay. So I'm gonna take you on a little quick walk down history lane, right? In 1694, the English suffered 50 years of war, right? So England decides, like, man, we've been in war for about 50 years. We're broke, we're busted. We need to find money to fund our political agendas, our political machines. How can we come up with money that we can't really get from these other places because they're ravaged with war? We can't really suck any more money out the system. Y'all know what their diabolical solution was? This is 1694. So if you're going to say the Federal Reserve, not yet, hold your horses. They said the best solution is to figure out a way to create money out of thin air. If we could miraculously create money, we'd be straight. The first central banking system was birthed in 1668. Okay? So notice I said that was in 1694. They were trying to figure it out. They already had the bank set up 30 years before. They just didn't know how to implement it for that purpose. It was like, I know I'm going to need this thing, but I haven't figured out how I'm going to utilize this resource yet. And I just want y'all to peep that. That's why I said it like that. Now, their first central banking system, birthed in 1668, is a privately owned bank. In about 1700, they finally figured out how to issue loans to the government, make the government pay the interest on the loans, not even real money, and they were more influential than the laws, the government, and the politicians combined. That private bank, right? So now let's fast forward to our beautiful Federal Reserve, y'all. How many? Go ahead, baby.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to chime in there. We talking about war. This banking system, that's a tactic of war. Now, we're talking about right now, a war on your own people. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. That's a war on your own people with this banking system.
That was the only reach they had at that time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? So now, understand, and we're always going to be talking about consolidation because that's all they think of. We want to take these things and form them like Voltron. I just want to say welcome very quickly to, oh my Lord, I can't pronounce your handle. I want to say is Rigwanji. I hope I said that right. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry. Who mentioned the stock market comes later, shake my head. Jess is talking about the Ukraine psychological operations, nothing but a money laundering scheme. Yep. Casper Cooper, I am familiar with your handle. I just never know if I'm saying it right, but welcome. And then Crazy Monks Don is bringing up Jekyll Island. I'm glad you brought it up because I'm just going to run through that very quickly. Many of you should be familiar with Jekyll Island. Yep. Can you remember the book we read?
It's called I think
like the monster.
The monster or the beast from. I think it's a
monster from Jekyll Island.
But I can't remember.
But it's a book y'all can get on Amazon. If you just put in Jekyll Island, the book will come up. Yeah. And I wish I could give y'all a better company than Amazon. I can't think of one right now. But y'all are in the U.S., so you can find bookstores and stuff to get it. But I'm going to tell you about Jekyll Island. I feel like a mommy at story time. Let freedom ring said, buy Bitcoin and fight the system. Yes, y'all, we shouldn't even have to tell y'all now to dollar cost average Bitcoin. Fight the system. Right, we're getting there. Y'all want 100,000 Bitcoin? Like, if you just be patient and climb that mountain, keep climbing that mountain, you'll be at the top of that Bitcoin mountain.
Yeah, I was just watching old videos today, and they're really not that old.
They're not that old.
And I was watching some technical analysis and things like that by our good brothers, King Bless and Bitcoin Zay. And I mean, this back when Bitcoin was 4,500.
Shout out to the gentleman.
Yeah, 3,700. And they were on different shows and podcasts. And you probably seen it if you look on the page. And you just think to yourself, like, man, that wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
And even though the price isn't where we want it to be, if we got it then, we're still looking good now. And if you get it now, you'll be looking good later. Right. So that's what we're trying to say.
So absolutely. And we are going to make it a habit to keep reminding. We usually do. We just didn't this show. But dollar cost average your Bitcoin. I know some of y'all, I don't know how you feel about precious metals, but understand sound money, right? Silver is sound money. It's been sound money for at least 6,000 years. But I'm going to tell y'all this. Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. That's how old it is, right? If we can't go back past Jesus, that's at least 2,000 years old. And it's really maintained its value. So understand that you really want to also be dollar cost averaging silver. Bam, I don't know if Bam's in the room yet, but he will be. Bam Hardrick, shout out to Bam and his beautiful family. Y'all know we shout them out. They have an organic chicken farm. Y'all really should check them out on Facebook. Yeah, but, you know, he was inquiring, like, where can we get silver? And we are dealing with a new audience, semi-new audience. Yes. So we do want to tell you, definitely check out, and I'm going to put the link in next time, Miles and Franklin. You can call them. They are going to give you a personal journey for what it is you want to do, how you want to do it, how you want to dollar cost average it. What type of silver rounds do you want to buy? What are the best to buy? Yeah, and we had on a few occasions, we had their CEO. Andy Scheckman's a good friend of ours. Andy Scheckman, friend of ours, friend of the show, come on the show and explain some certain things about silver and what's going on a large scale, because he is the CEO. He deals with it on a large scale as far as dealing with the COMEX and orders that come in and people standing for delivery. Yes. But, you know, us as everyday Joes, we just want to get our piece of silver. So go there, you'll get it. And you get a discount if you say, you know, Aaron, and believe it or not, y'all, his name is Gordon Simon, but I just call him Simon from military. That's what it is. And so, yeah, he's a great guy. He's been in the silver industry 33 years. So you definitely can go there. And, you know, everything is shipping and everything is insured. So make sure it comes right to your doorstep and you'll get everything you want. So that's a great place to go. I also am a big fan of ATMEX. If you understand the silver industry and you know how to pick your stuff out. Then ATMEX, right? Because you don't really get that personalized journey with ATMEX. You have to know what you're doing at ATMEX. Pick out the right things, you know, but with Miles Franklin, they'll give you some help. They're going to hold your hand all the way through, and that's why we like Miles, because you guys do have questions. You're new to this, and you can ask all of the questions you need. They're experts. Yeah, I would leave ATMEX to the people who absolutely know what they're doing. It keeps you from buying, because they love trying to push their more expensive pieces on you than the practical pieces, if that makes sense. And also, as we said, friend of the show, CEO Andy Scheckman, he is he's reachable. Yeah, oh yeah. Like you can email him. Yeah. You can email him with questions. Yeah. He will get back to you. Yeah. He has a phone number that you can actually call and he will get back with you or actually answer the questions there. So you can talk to the CEO, the chief executive officer. But the people who work for him are just as knowledgeable. They've been working with Andy over a decade. So they do, and this is not promoting or anything like that. This is, this is what y'all can do practically. If you have questions, they will walk you through it. That's the big one. Casper Cooper said the funniest thing though. He's, or I don't know if that's the male or female, but Casper Cooper said, the gospel song Silver and Gold is one reason why we're not buying nothing to masses. That is the truth. That's funny because that's true. Let Freedom Ring said agree about ATMEX. Yes, they will try to push. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with the more expensive pieces. It's not practical. It's harder to unload. Should you have to barter? Should you have to send it back and so on and so forth? Yeah, so right there, I'm sorry, what was the comment? I didn't get the whole comment. Let Freedom Ring agree about ATMEX? Yeah, he agrees what we're saying about ATMEX. Like you should know what you're doing if you're going to run with ATMEX. Oh, I thought you meant expensive pieces. Okay. But they are going to push their expensive pieces on you first, right? And if you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what you're looking for, this is why we're saying you should contact, you know, Miles and Franklin. Should I get a gold American Eagle? Should I get a silver American? Should I get this? Is it okay to get these art pieces? He's going to tell you no. So just understand that. For those of you who are new on this journey, contact Miles Franklin. Say Aaron and Gordon. So, and I'm not going to go too deep into this because she wanted to finish off what she had to say. But when you start your silver journey, there's certain ways that you want to go. But basically, most people will tell you get your ounces up. Yes. So you want to get ounces. If it's hand poured, whatever, 5, 10, you go all the way up, kilo, 100 ounce bars, if you will.
but you want to get your ounces up. Now, some people might build it up to the point where they can get the more expensive pieces.
Yeah. Once you
Right.
get there, that's fine.
Once you get there,
But we're talking about starting the
but
journey.
don't start with the expensive pieces. Start building your ounces up, building your ounces up, and also constitutional silver.
Very important.
They call junk silver, but it's constitutional silver. Silver minted pre 1965 or 4.
But wait, just for people who don't know what that means.
Okay.
The constitutional silver are quarters and dimes
And nickels.
yeah, that
quarter
have
nickels.
been minted before 1965.
Yeah.
Right? And we just wanted you to know that it is currency that's been minted. It feels different, feels kind of tinny. It feels crazy.
Well,
in
what
your
she's
hand.
saying
That's
is
the real quarter.
those minted before 65
Five
I
are
think,
worth a lot of money.
have actual
Silver.
actual silver in them.
I have value.
And so, even if you came across one at a grocery store, then make sure you keep it. You see, oh, this is 63, keep that.
Banks are very meticulous about pulling it out of
Yeah,
circulation.
pull that circulation.
So, so there's that. We didn't want to digress too far.
I digress, but I'll let her get back to the history.
Huntley Goldberg.
Okay.
It says, why did y'all say China Army has over 2 million? It says that it has 2 million. Recently, I'm going to say about a month and a half ago, during the when they were preparing for the World Economic Forum, they themselves reported that they had over 200 million, but they did not give a specific number. So I was quoting themselves. But no army should have 2 million human beings.
2 hands,
period.
Too
But they quoted that they're now over 200 million. And we'll talk about the World Economic Forum another time, because while it looks like there is division and divisiveness, what you're really looking at is consolidation.
Consolidation is a great thing. And also remember, this chess game, if you will, is being played at the very highest level, right? We're talking about rulers of countries, right? Emperors, if you will, these presidents, kings of the world, if you will. This is being played at the highest level. And if you would just explain to them the juxtaposition between Brics nations making the moves they're making and the SDG.
Really the World Economic Forum, because those are just their sustainable
making
goals.
there, because you see that the people in the World Economic Forum aren't the same people in the Brics.
But they are. That's the thing, though.
Oh, well, tell them.
So that's why I was telling you guys, when we're watching all of this.
What's the crossover? I would like to know the crossover.
So if you go, like China and Russia, they also have sustainable goals that are part of the 2030 agenda. Well, how could you have sustainable goals part of the 2030 agenda if you're not working with the king of the universe, King Charles, and the United States and other Western countries? It just doesn't make any sense, right? When you start digging and you start doing the research, you realize like, oh, y'all are warring with each other, but then at the same time, you're kind of working together, and that's just so weird, right? It's nothing personal, it's just war, I guess. They're sick of the Americans weaponizing the dollar, but just understand, and this is why I want to take you through the history lesson, because I want to show you how when it looked like they were all working separately, they were working to consolidate a monetary policy, and we're going to see a repeat of that cycle again. And that's why we need to do our history, because you can see, like, oh, that's the mess y'all be doing. Okay.
It's cyclical, as you will, because what is 2030? As posited by Strauss and Howe, who wrote the book, The Fourth Turning. And you guys are familiar with that book. We've mentioned it many times. The Fourth Turning, they said, in our turning, we're in the Fourth Turning, they said it would culminate in 2030.
It'll culminate in 2030.
And you got biblical texts about what's going on in 2030.
Lots of stuff is happening, y'all. But back to the Federal Reserve. So on December 1910, you had 6 individuals go secretly to Jekyll Island, right? And I'm going to name them, so if you need to look them up, you can. So Senator Nelson Aldrich, he was the one that put this thing together. And he secretly invited Paul Warburg, Frank Vanderlip, Benjamin Strong, Henry Davison, Charles Norton, and Abe Andrews. Okay? They spent 9 days on the island, and they sat and they wrote this bill up. Now, what I do want to bring to your attention is when they're writing this bill up, this is actually a fourth attempt. They had 3 failed attempts before that in order to kind of get this mechanism to create money out of nothing. All right, that's what I'm gonna call it, mechanism.
Okay.
Frank Vanderlip, who I just named, he was the president of National City Bank in New York. On February 9th, 1935, he wrote this. So yes, it was secretive indeed. As any conspirator, discovery we knew simply could not happen, or else our time and effort would be wasted. And that's important to know because, again, there were 3 failed attempts at this.
Yes, indeed.
He continued to quote, if it were to be exposed that our particular group had gotten together and written a banking bill, that bill would have had absolutely no chance of passage by Congress. So these attendees, just these 6 people, let me see, 7 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 6 people plus Senator Aldridge, right? So they're the head of banks, head of government. They were some of the richest men in the world. And I want to tell you, these 7 men in this room accounted for a quarter of the world's wealth. Google it. A quarter of the world's wealth in 1910, 7 people in a room. So a quarter of the world's wealth was literally in a 250-foot space, right? I'm sure it was bigger than that because they were probably at a mansion or something. But I just want y'all to put that in your mind.
What's the joke? Can I tell my joke? You know, I'm like, Erin.
What's the power war?
She don't like my jokes, so.
What?
But they got a joke, right? If 200 people were in a bar and Jeff Bezos walked in, everybody's a billionaire across median average, right? Right? So I don't know. That's a bad joke, but it's true.
But that's how they work it, right? So you would get to be a what? A billionaire?
A billionaire.
You get to be a billionaire for however long he gonna drink his beer, y'all.
And then he leave, and then we back.
And then he leave, and you back to being broke.
We broke now, y'all. What happened? Come on back, Jeff. But read them for the people. I guess they got long comments.
Just says that China has 1.5 billion people, 200 million conscripts and voluntary enlistees. Sounds conservative, to be honest, but they're not even trying to beef like that. Economic war, chess game, like y'all said. Yeah, because wars cost a lot of money. So if they can do it psychologically, it's a lot better. It's cheaper. Even if they have to pay into the propaganda machine, it's still cheaper. Edward Diaz said, U.S. Treasuries mean so will just buy some time. It is, right? It's going to buy them some time and help strengthen their BRIC currencies. Yeah, they're dumping that and trying to get their BRIC currency together. Buys them some time. So what did the bankers tell Americans? Right? Here we go with the propaganda machine. This new bill is designed to stabilize the American economy. And that's something that we all want, right? It's going to stop the grip of, and I'm quoting this, it's going to stop the grip of the Wall Street bankers over America. But the men who wrote the bill were the ones that we're describing that have the grip on America, right? Their success? A small group of men who could create money out of thin air, charge interest on it to the American government, which the American people would pay. Y'all like that Ponzi scheme? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's something you may not know. Americans absolutely understood how central banks were, how they were designed. They understood the ramifications of having a central bank, which is why the other 3 bills failed. And it's why they had to go to Jekyll Island in secrecy, and it turned into this whole big conspiracy. When they went to turn in the bill was called the Aldridge Act. And as soon as Congress was like, oh, Senator Aldridge's name is on this, we're not, nope, they denied it. So then they had to go back to the drawing board and come out with another plan to push this bill through. Now here's how they did it. Y'all ready? They sent 2 million of their friends to carry the bill, and they renamed it the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. All right, so now the bill is going through Congress. How do we get the American people's confidence? That's the word I'm looking for, confidence. So what they did was the bankers paid the journalists, right? Your American newspapers. That was the only way they were getting the news in 1910. And the newspapers all had similar front pages, similar mainstay stories that read that bankers were screaming in protest, that the new bill would ruin them. and thus gain full support of the American people. In 1913, y'all know that bill got passed because they tricked Congress and they tricked the American people. But I'm not done.
When it goes, I'm sorry, I don't ask any questions. I can't remember off the top of my head who was the president behind that. I feel like it was
I would have to look it up. 1910.
1910.
Yeah, we would have to look up who the current sitting president. Who was the current sitting president in 1910?
Yeah,
If one of y'all could add it in.
I feel like it was Roosevelt.
So that's how the bankers fooled the Americans. How did they fool Congress? When they were writing up the Federal Reserve Act, they wrote all these clauses in that limited the bank's power. And then once the bill got passed, they not deleted. There's a word that they use.
For getting rid of an act?
Getting rid of the clauses in the act. They removed the clause, but they have a legal term for it. They removed the clauses in the act once the bill was passed. So now they duped the Americans, they duped Congress, and we have our current day Federal Reserve. So now you have a small group of people in complete control and creation of the American money. Where are we at present day? Woodrow Wilson, thank you, Let Freedom Ring. Somebody said Calvin Coolidge. Y'all double, triple check. Huntley, I'm gonna get you, I can't give you a link, but I'll look up where they said it in the World Economic Forum. It was Woodrow Wilson. We got all these different presidents in there.
Okay. It was in that same
Yeah,
time.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I just asked. I'm sorry.
No worries. Here we go. So in the present day, I'm reading quotes now because I want you to hear from the horse's mouth. Y'all should know who Alan Greenspan was, right? He was head of the Fed in 2007.
Yeah.
He was asked, what should be the proper relationship between the chairman of the Fed and the president of the United States? Y'all can look this up, it's a video. The Federal Reserve is an independent agency. So what that means is basically there is no other agency of government which can overrule the actions. And what the relationships are, frankly, are irrelevant.
Irrelevant. So that is true.
It's William Taft. Thank you, guys. William Taft was the president at the time.
Which is irrelevant, but what you did see for my people who have been investing for a while, you've seen over President Donald Trump's tenure that he was very active on Twitter. Do you remember this?
Yeah,
And so our good friend Jay, what's his name? Jerome, the president of, the president of the Fed.
Jerome Powell?
Jerome Powell. So you would have things where Jerome Powell would come out and speak and say what he's going to do for this quarter, that quarter, and Trump would tweet. You guys remember that?
Yeah, he would.
And you would see the stock market move.
As soon as he tweeted.
Yeah, so it's movement on the stock market. Yeah, what is their interaction? He gets to say what he has to say at his speech, and then the president gets to tweet and make the stock market go up or down.
Right, so even though he's saying our relationships are relevant, we do whatever we want to, they're all working together, right? Yeah. Because they're all making money together.
Yeah.
He said the whole okie doke was under Wilson. But it wasn't okie doke. It really wasn't okie doke.
Yeah, he was the one who came back and took our gold.
So remember, we talked about the central banking in England, and then I kind of fast forwarded you. That was 1600, 1700. I fast forwarded you to 1900. Then you ended up getting a consolidated model, right? Because now we have the European central banks and the U.S. central banks. You think they don't work together? They absolutely work together, right? So there's that consolidated power. You're uniting separate countries under one economic policy. This is important because this is where we're headed, and this is why they're trying to destroy the current monetary policy. Now, understand, for those who have taken economics in college, we undergo a new economic policy about every 30 to 40 years.
Yes, I believe that is the number they will give you.
I think it's every 30 to 40 years.
At the university level.
Right? So, yes, he did regret his actions when Wilson signed it. That's absolutely true. He regretted it because when he looked at it and he saw all of the stuff got pulled back, he did regret it, but there was nothing he could do about it. Again, it's an independent agency, and there's nothing he can do with their actions. That was the way they passed the bill.
Yes.
There are some countries, though, that do not have a central bank. North Korea, Iran, and Cuba are 3 countries that do not have a central bank. Funny thing, right? Because my spidey senses be tingling. I just want to see how far back that goes. In 2000, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya also didn't have a central bank. What year did Gaddafi get killed?
Oh, wow.
Was it 2003? 2005? It was after 2000.
Yeah, it's right there in that area.
And all of a sudden, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya get taken off of, we don't have a central bank, or we don't have access to central banking. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting.
So you say Iran?
Right now, currently, North Korea, Iran, and Cuba do not. Their central bank doesn't have access to whatever it is they have going on economically.
Right, and so, as we are assets in arbitrage, we talk about moving abroad and visiting other places.
Not Iran.
Good luck at visiting those 3 places.
Yes.
You might be able to get to Cuba. You definitely can't get to Iran, and you're definitely not going to North Korea.
Right, you're not going to North Korea. So just even notice that, keep that.
You can't go there.
Let Freedom Ring say Gaddafi was killed in 2012. Yeah, way after 2000.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And remember, for those of you who even know that story, Gaddafi didn't need a central bank.
No, he did not.
Because they were just going to suck all in. He didn't want any parts of that. And now all of a sudden, after he was killed, now all of a sudden they get taken off that list where the central bank does have access to them economically. Okay, so instead of now I don't have to get into Bretton Woods. Y'all should know that because that's way later, right? That's the 70s.
Bretton Woods is 1942 or
42.
43.
And then whatchamacallit took it completely off temporarily.
Temporarily to this.
Temporarily, right?
Yeah, that was up in
the 70s.
In the 70s, and in the 70s, where he took off the gold standard. But Bretton Woods was right after the end of World War II.
So that was the 40s.
Yeah, where people came to the table.
And now we have nothing. So we went from gold being the backbone of the system to debt being the backbone of our system. And while they try to make sense to you, like the way they explain it to you is like, okay, I know how that works. It doesn't make sense, right? The crushing debt being the backbone of the system means that economically, we are trading our economic power almost for nothing, right? Literally peasant society. And it doesn't feel like that because we do have a lot of, right now, we do have people own things, people have cars, people own companies, right? Even if you're not a Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 company, if you are a business owner, you own your own company, you do have ownership of something. Yep. So it doesn't feel like the peasant elite kind of idea that you get in your mind when we call it economic slavery, right? But just understand that the paradigm really did shift to the masses.
Yes.
With it being debt-backed and not gold-backed. You guys know that central banks are able to create booms and busts at will. And with that being said, this is what we need to be watching, right? While it looks like Brics is going to undermine the American dollar, we need to see where are they conspiring in secret in order to consolidate the economy to come up with their completely cashless society that crosses all the borders. That's what we need to really be watching and let's look for that.
So perfect. So we can go into our good sir, Mr. Diaz asked earlier about CBDCs.
The CBDCs. There we go.
So you're right there.
We didn't forget you.
Yeah, we're here now. I'll shout out to our good friend Dear Bit.
Hi, Dear Bit.
Thank you for showing up. We love you, Dear Bit.
And shout out to Chappelle House Love.
All right, yeah, definitely. Big shout out to you guys, man. But let's go into CBDCs. What do you think? I don't know, it wasn't any part of your research, but it's just off the top of the head, we just go on CBDCs.
I feel like, and this is Erin talking in speculation, right? It's her Aquarian mind. I feel like Bitcoin took the government by surprise.
I agree with you.
Right? I feel like it came out and they were like, oh, that's just some trend. It'll go away. Or, I feel like they pish-poshed it and then it was like,
not because,
man, we need to do something now.
Yeah, because, for my old school Bitcoiners, when Bitcoin came out, man, I used to call it cowboy country. Mm-hmm. People would hack your wallet, people, it was hackers and all this stuff on there. And they just thought it was a trend that those type of people we're dealing with gamers and all this stuff. And then you're seeing people coming in with more capital, more capital, more capital, and you're like, oh, this is real.
This is real.
So now once you see top Fortune 500, now Fortune 100 companies, these Michael Saylor,
He did not help.
former CEO of MicroStrategy.
He made it really real for them.
People jumping in like that. Elon Musk, even though he jumped out, but
he jumped in with Dogecoin though, didn't he?
He does have Joe's, but he did jump into Bitcoin for a minute, and he jumped out.
The rocket science conversation.
People like Kathy Wood. We can go on and on and on. The people who jumped in. And
what is the guy's name who's now with the Fed? He used to teach at MIT.
Oh, Gary Gensler.
So Gary Gensler was a professor, and when they realized that we may have a huge problem on our hands, because remember, I took you down history lane to show you that it's a very small group of elitists who don't want the average man or woman to find that arbitrage. And this is what I've been talking about for the last couple of shows. They're trying to find ways for wealth transfer to not transfer back to the people. How can we lock this up?
Yeah, and the funny thing about Gary Gensler, and maybe I mean, knowledge is knowledge, but Gary Gensler, like she said, was a
professor at MIT. Taught blockchain.
And he taught the blockchain course. And I took that blockchain course in 2018. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that course, and I used to share it with people like, hey, check this course out. And then all of a sudden, come switch. Yeah, come switch. Now he worked for the government, and he's talking crazy. And so,
but he has to, right?
But the information was relevant on that blockchain course.
And that's why they recruited him.
Blockchain technology. I don't know if it's still up. This is a thing called MIT Open Courseware, where you can take courses from MIT, Massachusetts Institution of Technology, one of the top schools in the United States of America. So it's great information from a great professor, but he is now working for the other side.
Yeah, so you really want to be watching as best as you can, because I'm gonna tell y'all this, right? Like, we come on these lives and the information we give you is really consolidated.
Yes.
This is hours and hours and hours of vetting.
Yeah.
Vetting BS, vetting misinformation, vetting uninformation, vetting valid information. I need to find the document for, I want to say it was for Huntley Goldberg, right? Because Huntley can't even find anything that says that the Chinese army has 200 million people. They're saying that they only see 2 million people in the army. When they reported in the World Economic Forum, now I gotta go back through all those PDFs, but that's what they reported. So that's how that's getting out, because that's what they said. So I don't know if it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they didn't formally put it out there for the agenda machine. Are they talking smack? Did somebody misspeak at the World Economic Forum and it's only 2 million? And they said over 200 million.
It could also.
So that's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that to my attention, because now I'm gonna start digging for real, because that was in a PDF document for the World Economic Forum.
And how they do in the United States, you might have 2 million, I guess, enlisted. You might have 200 million available, like they do with us with the selective service.
Okay.
So they might, I don't know how they did it.
How they're overinflating the number.
They could be overinflating the numbers, saying we do have this available.
Personnel,
a pool of personnel that we can pick from. So, we have to vet that out for you, good sir. But
and
we
I don't
definitely
know if Huntley is male or female. That's why I try to just.
Oh, sorry.
But Huntley, I am going to double check that, and hopefully have an answer for you by next show. That'll be one of the first things I bring up, because now I'm gonna start digging too, to see if it's like our selective service.
Yeah.
But even with our reporting, do they report the reserve and the guard? Because they're not active duty.
Right. I don't know if they have to.
Do they report the ancillary, the coast? Like, if it's a situation like that, we're like, no, we're gonna give you all the numbers, including the selective service. Then that is that is what governments do, right? They overinflate stuff or underinflate it. Like for the Ukraine war, they were underinflating how many Ukrainians had perished. And Tucker Carlson sat and spoke with one of the top generals in the middle of and his number was astronomical. I don't want to quote it because I don't know if he's overinflating it. And there's no like hard data with today's information, misinformation, disinformation, uninformation. And that's the hardest part of going through a lot of the information that we're going through. So that's why I always say, take it with a grain of salt. If they're saying that, okay, let's sit on it, right? Let's say they do have over 200 million.
And unfortunately,
sit on that.
Unfortunately, even if they only had 2 million,
that's still a lot.
That's crazy.
That's a lot.
That's crazy. So,
it's
other people
with 1.5 billion, yes.
No, I'm sorry, it came down a little bit.
Yep, yeah. It says 2 million active members. Okay, good, thank you. It says all the links I pulled up says 200 million active members. Thank you, Huntley. And that may be the problem, is that there's 200 million available. So yes. Thank you so much, Huntley, for separating that out. But I am definitely, that'll be the first thing I bring up when we go live again, because I want to look into that. And if there is documents where I can figure out where the rest of the people are and how they broke them down, that would be good for us to know as well. Yes, and the CCP controls the media in China. It's very controlled. The United States is very controlled now, for those of y'all who don't really know. Trained men and women on active duty, according to International Institute of Strategic Studies. Mm-hmm. Who does the International Institute for Strategic Studies belong to? Is that the United States? Because we also have to watch our own propaganda, meaning if it's the United States saying that that's what they have, that's a way to downplay a lot of people. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? That's why I said I'm gonna dig deep to see if I can get it from the horse's mouth who may be overinflating it. Yeah. But you also don't want to get it from your enemy who's gonna underinflate it so that they can kind of downplay the power that's actually out there. But again, the whole point for the show today was really we're looking at the destruction of our current economic policy. We're looking at that destruction, right? The cash is kind of old. We've talked about losing its purchasing power. We've talked about, and a lot of you guys would have seen this from other content creators as well, how long currency exists.
Yeah, they have I mean, it's a window of 40 to 50 years is the window currency exists. Every currency ever created
always goes back to a value of 0.
Yep.
So these are the things that we're looking at. We're getting down to that. So how are the powers conspiring together? And this is the whole point of the whole World Economic Forum tells me that this is the consolidation of economic policy. Mm-hmm. And again, while it looks like China and Russia aren't fooling with the West, they're not fooling with Europe, they're not fooling with the United States, when you start looking at their websites for their sustainable development goals, they have the same harmony and synchronicity that the West and the United States have for theirs, and they have to work together. And they're meeting together, right? These countries are meeting in Saudi Arabia, they're meeting in New York City. They're sitting down and they're talking about how to get all these green initiatives going. And you're like, your spidey senses have to be tingling that these governments are conspiring against you. They are working to destroy. A lot of the economic policy is going to be destroyed from inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Because that's the easiest way to destroy something, from the inside, not from without. Hey. Because you want the American people to not finger you, I want you to vote for me, so I don't want you to know that this is what we're doing, and be looking at other things. That's what all the distractions are about.
Yeah, the distraction. Remember, they always have a saying, on the grassroots level, you destroy and rebuild. Shout out to my 5%ers, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Destroy and rebuild. And they're going to destroy a system and rebuild it another way, but they're going to rebuild it in their favor, unfortunately.
And their favor right now, what I want you to have in the forefront of your mind so that you don't fall under these deceptive illusions, is not for you, it's against you, right? It is not for your wealth transfer, it is for their wealth transfer. And what they're trying to figure out now, especially in the West, we in the West should, on a level, be making more than we've ever made before.
Yeah.
We should be more prosperous than we've ever been before. And of course, it is a cycle, right? They were prosperous in Rome. They were prosperous in Greece. They were prosperous in Babylon. They were prosperous in all these places. right? And then when that cycle comes, what they want to do is they want to transfer that wealth from us to them. And they want to make sure that they can X out and box out all of the arbitrage in order for us to figure out how to transfer the wealth from them and back to us.
Yes.
Right? And this is why we talk about smart cities and sustainable development goals, because their goal, their ultimate goal is that you will own nothing and be happy, but you're still utilizing your economic labor in exchange for something. Well, I don't own anything, so what is my economic labor in exchange for now?
Exactly.
And those are the things, those are the questions we need to be asking. Those are the things we need to be looking at. And those are the goals that we need to have our spidey senses like, all right, I'm watching this and seeing how this is.
There we go. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Did you want to read off some of the comments?
With a population of over 1.2 billion, somebody in the comments before said 1.5 billion, China has a potential with manpower of another 200 million males fit for military service available at any time.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
I think y'all are, Huntley said, I think y'all are dope and in tune with what's happening. Sometimes I don't like to be in tune with what's happening.
Yeah, sometimes a headache.
No, I'm glad you fact checked today, because we do want to just look at those things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like no matter how we come down to it, it's over 200 million people, don't matter, right?
Yeah,
But if something was to jump off because they're communists, they could just force the people to do that anyway. They could have army 1.5 billion people at that point, right? Because they're going to make you do whatever they want you to do. But we just want to understand what we're looking at, because it is historical. No other army in the history has seen numbers like that, that didn't consolidate with other nations.
And, and also, from a personal standpoint, if something jumps off, as you will, if it has to get to that point, I do have 4 sons who might be called into service, right? And I don't want to see that.
No.
I mean, I served my country. My wife, my beautiful wife, she served our country so that our sons would not have to. But, if it gets so bad, then our sons will have to,
And you never know how they changed that program, right? Because the selective service hasn't been rehauled since it came out, I don't think. It's been go down to the post office and fill out that for the men, right? But that was at a time when women didn't serve, and now women serve.
Yeah, they do.
So, yeah, that's interesting, because they surely haven't even re-looked at that or rehauled it. And I think it's because they have a extra emphasis on technology and weaponry and apparatus.
Yeah, so you may not need, but you're getting the wrong.
They'll supplement the people for drones and robots, and y'all see the AI they got out now. That's crazy.
If I'm correct, but correct me in the comments if you guys know. I thought that the U.S. military was at some of its lowest levels that we've seen in many, many years.
Yes.
I don't have the exact numbers, so
But I was
fact check me
when I looked at that, because I did read that recently. And when I say recently, this might have been towards the beginning of the war. There was some controversy because Elon Musk owns something called a Starlink satellite.
Yes, he does.
And that Starlink satellite is crucial in the communications for the Ukraine and in launching wartime operations, right? Let me just put it that way. And there was a point where they were going to do something risky, and he turned the Starlink off.
Yeah, interesting.
And the Ukraine, not the Americans, like the talking heads, that's what I like to call them. The talking heads were calling for his head, because I think it did cause some casualties, but he was worried that it would have caused Russia's gonna come for us if we do this.
Okay.
Us here in the United States, like front lines, if we do this. So he turned it off. He didn't want his technology to be utilized in that way. And I'm bringing that up because you have all of these private industries, not just Raytheon and Halliburton, right? Those are wartime defense companies. Right. Look them up. Y'all do y'all research on some of this stuff, right? But they have private companies now that have technologies that wasn't initially created for wartime purposes. And when they discover that these things can do these things, then you're getting into these sketchy things and stuff like that. But y'all look up that situation with Elon Musk, Starlink, and the Ukraine war. It's a very interesting story. But like I said, I think the U.S. isn't worried about that. But they also have ancillary right? Because
Okay.
our police in the United States are militarized.
They are
If
militarized.
anything was to really jump off, you got the whole military, the reserves, the guard, and you have your militarized police.
Yes. So and that's a show we could do. Let us know if you
I
want
may
to
have
talk
to put
about
those
that.
numbers together for y'all before we do that. The CCP wouldn't hesitate to hold a draft, neither would United States of America, because we haven't seen war on our shores since the Civil War.
No, since World War II.
On our shores.
Yeah, what they call World War II. That is technically on our shores.
Really?
Well, it's Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii.
It is Hawaii.
Yeah, D-Day, Hawaii.
Yeah, it is.
It does count.
So
It
since
does
World War
count.
II.
It does count. Yep.
Mhm.
I was like, really? But anyway, we're not gonna keep y'all. We always keep y'all too long. It's an hour and 10 minutes. We love y'all so much. I love seeing these new handles. Huntley is a guy. I can see his thumbnail. Just want to make sure. We really try not to use the pronouns, because sometimes it's just the picture and we can't tell by your handle. But just know that we truly love and appreciate y'all. We want y'all to get the message out there. Y'all do some vetting too, right? So if I say this and you're like, you know what, I did my research and this is what I saw, please hop in these comments so that we can learn from you.
Yes, indeed.
CBDC, remember. Oh, we did answer that KW1. We were just saying that we talking about Bitcoin and the consolidation of monetary policy. So all of the banks and all of the nations are now trying to come up with what it seems like their own separate CBDCs, but you're going to see that get consolidated, and we are going to end up in a completely cashless society. And it's not going to be, I don't think, multiple CBDCs, because they want to figure out the currency conversion. They hate that. They don't like that.
Yeah.
Somebody wins, somebody loses, especially when they're settling debts.
Yes, definitely.
According to Global Firepower, China has available military manpower of more than 761 million people, along with 50 that's way more than 200. I figured that though. But that's what he said at the World Economic Forum. It's a PDF thing. I need to find it again, because I went through the COP28. I went through all of those PDFs. Mm-hmm. He said we have more than 200 million, but he never said the number. He said, we have more than 200 million assets available for wartime operations.
There we go.
That's all he said.
There we are. That's all we are, assets.
Assets.
Right.
And that's translated from, because I speak Mandarin.
Yeah, translated.
That's translated from his language. So there you go. That's our question answered. Thank you so much, because I am surely going to quote that. 761 million people as of April 2023.
There we go.
Great show. We'll share with my 18-year-old the history. Hi, Michelle Delati. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, World of Champions, for joining. Big shout out to Huntley, who did the vetting out for us.
Thank you, good sir.
761 million.
That's even worse than we thought.
Now, in the Bible, I ain't going to quote the Bible too much, but the Bible says that when John the Revelator was caught up in the island of Patmos, he had a vision. And in part of the vision, he heard over 200 million horses crossing the dried up Euphrates River. Yes. There's no way John of Patmos could have known then, 2,000 years ago, that the Euphrates River was going to dry up in 2023. So I'm also watching. Spank them likes, y'all. I'm also watching to see what's going on biblically. I don't like killing y'all with the biblical scripture and quotes and stuff like that. But just know that is also my passion, right? I like that better than all the doomsday talk. But we love y'all. Simon and I are going to get back to work so we can talk to y'all again sometime this week.
Maybe,
and we're also checking out some stuff. We're vetting some other stuff, but we don't like bringing it to you unless we have it completely vetted for reasons like this. So y'all have a great night, and we'll see y'all later on in the week.